So welcome guys to our second tutorial in the Visual CLR series, and in this video we're going to talk about connecting to the database, and our backend is MySQL. So to connect to your database using Visual CLR, the first thing is to make sure that your application can access Visual Studio. And I already mentioned in the introductory tutorial that you need to install Visual Studio. That's MySQL for Visual Studio. And then after installing that, the next thing that you have to do is to reference it. And to reference, to add a reference, you have to right click your application, actually your solution, and then add reference somewhere. You guys see add reference somewhere? Okay, already have references here, so I can just do add reference and then come under extensions, then find me MySQL data. Still loading. So you have to find MySQL data from, just search MySQL data. Okay, it's already added one here by default, so you add MySQL data and then just do okay. So you have referenced MySQL data, so which means you can start using MySQL. So we're going to test our connection. So that means that we are going to at least add a control. So to add a control, come to the toolbox, and then we are going to pick on button, a bit in the few text boxes, just to show you guys how things move around. So let me do button, add this here, and then I'll do test connection. I'll have to rename this one to test connection. Right, test connection. So we want to test if who is successfully connected to the database, and if you've not successfully connected to a database, then you'll have to throw some error somewhere. So I'll add an extra text box. Let me do text box. So we have a text box here, maybe another text box. Let me call another text box again. I can as well copy and paste the first one, but occasionally I like being manual. Yeah, now there we are. So I want to run my workbench, that's MySQL workbench, and at least set a database for this series, for the C++ training. Okay, that is CLR. I'm yet to teach C++ in several other weeks, so I have to stick to specifics. Okay, so okay, now this is MySQL workbench, and you guys can see that I'm logging in with the root. My user, the current user, is root, and I'm accessing my local host, and my port is 3306. Yeah, so my port is 3306. Don't forget with that. I'm accessing a local host, and I'm logged in as root. So punch that, and at least connect, at least open as a database. I'm going to do a new database, and I'm going to call my database CLR training, okay? Common Language Runtime Training. So let's start by creating our database. Create database, and then I'll give my database a name CLR, okay? So that's now a valid command for creating the database. So create database and then database name, and with a semicolon. So you guys have to note that my syntax here ends in a semicolon. So create database CLR, and then I'll go ahead and use the database that I've just created. So I'll say use database. So use database will change my database to the database that I'll specify. So use database CLR, okay, and then actually I don't have to specify the database. So I'll just say use CLR, and then I'm going to at least create a table, and I want to import my users table from another schema, from another database. So what I'll do is to say create table users, and so I want to get a copy of users table from one of the databases that I already have here. So I'll say create table users, like now here I want to access let me see, training. I'm going to use the training database, okay? So I'll say like training dot users, okay? So I want to do I say clone? I want to create a table like an existing table here. Under tables, I have users table here. I'm actually using the training table to do a few things in the CI series. So create table users like training.users. So I want to create a table like this one over here. So create table users. You guys understand? Create table users like training.users. So I'm going to run this. And then everything will be set. So already I now have a CLR database, and then a users table. Let me just do this: select star from users. Okay, I'm going to do Control Enter, and then now that's the table that I just created by just writing the above command. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I want to import the records that were in the users table, okay, in the other database. So I'll say insert into users, okay, insert into this table, okay, into users, select star from training dot users. Do you guys understand that? And then I want to run the same command down there, that's select star from users. So I'm going to highlight the two statements and then run them, and then there we are. I've copied the data in the users table, that is the training users table, into the CLR database users table as well again. So our CLR database has one table currently, and you guys can see the fields in here. We have the user ID, fname, that is first name, middle name, last name, username, and then the password. This password field, the password field you guys see here was hashed with bcrypt, so it may not necessarily apply here, okay? But when we start to handle AES, that's advanced inscription. Okay, we'll see how to implement our login, a totally different hashing again. Okay, so I want us guys to now switch back to our IDE. That's our Visual Studio, and implement our connection. Okay, now so we want to code this button to check if our application connects to the database. And to do that, just double click on this button here, and then it will take you to the codes, okay, where you can code them. So the first thing in here is to do a string that contains your login credentials, and to do that, you just do a string variable here, string, and then cap sign C++, okay, string. Let's do a connection string or any other thing that will assign these. Okay, so let's do connection string. That's on string is equal to L. What is L here? L here is a wide character. Word character accepts several characters. That is, okay, it's definitely not an int using a string, right? And I'm going to use symbols as well. So to represent that, we use an L or wide character that's denoted by letter L. So we use an L, and then I'll do the double quotes, and then I'll provide my data source. So my data source currently is a local host. Okay, data source is local host, and I still need to explain this. This is local, also data source is equal to local host. I need to explain this, that if you want to submit or make your application submit to a remote database, what you're going to do is just do data source is equal to maybe the IP address of the database. Okay, like currently I think 127.0.0.1, that's the 127.0.0.1 also resolves back to the local host. Okay, the IP address of your machine. So this will resolve back to the local host, which means if you have a server somewhere set up somewhere that is a remote server, what you have to do is just to provide the IP address, and then the next thing that you're going to do is to specify the port. You open the port, and the port that we're currently running is 33. You already saw that the port that we run in here is 3306. Okay, so 127.0.0.1 is local. That resolves back to local host. I can as well do localhost here. Okay, and our port is 3306. So we'll have to provide our port. Our port is 3306. Okay, and then the next thing that you're going to provide is the username, and the username that I'm using to connect to MySQL is root. So username is equal to root. Okay, and then the password. So password, my current password is set to, actually you guys should go back to one of the tutorials I did where I was programmatically changing my password. Let's go to my website, you'll find the resources. So the password is currently set to K3 N Y and at. that is Kenya, K3, capital N, Y, and that's, come on guys, I'll still change it. You won't come and start hacking my system. So that is now done. So now that's our connection string. Now the next thing here is to open a connection or create a connection. MySQL must do just MySQL something is amiss because we haven't included MySQL. We haven't referenced MySQL yet. So we'll come up here and then say using namespace. System with MySQL, right? Data, MySQL client. Now that will let us use MySQL down here. So we'll say MySQL connection and then do a cap sign and then give it a name here. So we'll do MySQL connection, that is to our database. So connection to our database, okay, connection to our database is equal to gc new. Now gc new here is just a way of creating a new connection, but the gc bit handles garbage collection. Something called garbage collection. When your system is running and it notices that a variable that you set is not being used, just idling in the system, it gets collected, okay, gets in as a garbage. Or if a function or any other thing has been used and is just idly using your memory, it gets collected and disappears from the memory, okay. So gc new is just a way of managing memory. This is now a managed system. You don't have to manually manage the memory. That is, if you, for example, if you create a connection, you don't have to close it because the system will close it. So we have gc new MySQL connection, right? And then we're going to pass in our connection string. So we have connection string. This is freezing and I don't know why. So we have passed in our string in here. We created it, but now we're passing it to our instance of MySQL connection, okay? Fairly understandable. And then we have to create a command now. Now this bit is going to query our database, okay? So we say MySQL command, give it a cap sign. Let's do a query. So that's going to be our query, or any other thing. Don't have to be rigid. You can give it a name here. So let me just do query is equal to, we'll do gc new again, gc new MySQL MySQL command, and then in here I will write the query and then pass in my connection. That's now the connection to the database. So I'll do MySQL command, and then in there I'll do my query. And as you guys know, MySQL or MySQL commands end with a semicolon. So I'm going to to do that one there so that I don't forget. So, and then here I'll pass in my connection to my database connection. So let me do my command in here. I already have users table set, and our users table is here. Select stuff from users. Okay, so select stuff from users will return the users table. We can as well modify this and just say remove the star. So star returns all the records, all the columns, but we can say select fname, right? Fname, and then so you can add the columns that you want to appear, but let me just stick to star. I need to select all the records from the users table. So this is the command that I am going to use inside here. So select stuff from users. But if you take a closer look at this, in here we already specified the database to use CLR, right? But if you come here into our codes, we haven't selected a database yet, so you have to do it as well in here. So select stuff from, instead of users, we're going to first do our database and then dot. Okay, so CLR dot users. Yeah, so select stuff from CLR dot users and then pass in our connection. So, and then we're going to set our reader. So MySQL reader. Come on, yeah, MySQL reader cap sign, and then let me just do a reader in here, and I'm not going to initialize it. I'm just going to leave it there hanging. Okay, so this already will connect to our database, but if you run the command, you won't know that it connected to your database. Okay, so we're going to introduce a try catch block. So try and catch. So we try if something is true. No, we try if something succeeds, then we can implement at least something in between here. Otherwise, we're going to catch, and what we're going to catch an exception here. So let me highlight this and say exception cap e. Okay, you're going to catch an exception or just an ex if you like that. And I tend to like this kind of coding. That's where my curly brackets start in the next line. So we're going to try and then catch an exception here. So exception cap ex, and then in here throw just a message. So message box, okay, and then show. So ex message. All right, fairly understandable. So we're going to catch any error that will arise up here. Any problem that arises up here will be caught down here. So if I set this one to A, which means I'll have to just do e-message. All right, so I'm going to open my connection here. So I'll do conDB, that's connection to my database. So conDB, come on, open. So I need to start typing a little bit faster because you have to catch up with time. So I've opened my connection, and then I need to set my reader here. So reader is equal to query. You guys see the query up here. So reader is equal to query execute reader. Now I'm executing my reader. Okay, so the reader is equal to query execute reader, and then down here I'm going to introduce a while block. So while true, okay, while true, while something results to true. So while, and our something that's going to result to true here is while our reader reads, okay, while our reader reads, so which means while we still have some results from our database, okay, while our reader reads. Let's first do a message box here. Message box show. You can do successfully, connection successful. Right? So let's run this. Ooh. Rising. And there we go. Okay, let me test my connection. Now test. Good, connection successful. So successfully connected to the database. So now the next thing that I want to do is just to at least show some thing from the database. Okay, so let's do that. I want to come back to my design mode, and then I'm going to rename this control, the first control, from text box 1 to txt underscore first name. Okay, just the first name. Okay, and then this to txt. The reason why I'm doing txt is because in my forms I can end up with several controls. Think of buttons, text boxes, how do you call them, several other input fields here, combo box. So to make them distinct, to make the text input distinct, I'm starting with txt. Okay, so let me come back to the and give it a name. So txt, and then last name. So which means that we're going to use these two fields to display records from the database. Okay, so let's get that implemented. Back to our code. So instead of showing this message box in here, I want to go away with it and just say that while reader read, I want to access the first name field. Okay, so now txt first name, and then text, the text property, okay, is equal to, you guys understand that, is equal to now our first name field in the database. So if you come to our database, we have the user ID, that's the first column, and then this is the second column, middle name third column, and then the last name fourth column. So this one is at index 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let me just switch back in here, and then so this one is equal to reader get string, okay, get string, and then we're going to specify our index here in the column number, that is, so get string and then 1. That's our first name field, the one here, so is equal to this field in here. Okay, so I'll enter and then say and do the same for my, I can copy paste, but let's just do it. So txt last name, and then the text property bit text is equal to reader get string, and then our last name is the 4th column, so that means 3. Okay, maybe you can go ahead here and just do our message box. Let's bring our message box. So message box here, show, we can now show reader get, we are going to get int 32. Okay, get int 32 of our first column. You guys understand? All right. Some kind of error here. Message box show. So I'm going to end up with several message boxes. So let me just run this bit and see what happens. Whoa. But you guys already know that everything that we've implemented can be activated by just clicking the test connection bit. So let me test my connection. So there we are, first name, last name, working well. And what if we had several users in the database? Do you guys think that we'll be having the same result? Now that is for you guys to think out. From users where you can do a where condition here, okay? But I think we'll have to handle more things in the upcoming lessons. So maybe that we can stop there for today and plan on the next time that we'll meet.